This video is going to talk about comparative advantage. And in particular, we'll go through a numerical example of how it is that two people can specialize in trade and both be better off just through the principle of comparative advantage. I'm going to keep the same sort of a model, structure of the model that they had in the book. In other words, we're going to have two people and two goods. And I'm going to keep the names the same as what they had in the book. So it's going to be Blake and Gwen, and they're going to be producing pizzas and wings. But I'm going to have some different numbers here. This is going to show actually both comparative and absolute advantage, but it was with some different numbers. If the first time you saw this, maybe in class or in the book, if the numbers didn't seem to register with you, maybe seeing some different numbers here will help you see it. So what we have here is the world of our production possibilities frontier. It's two goods. And so in production in this world involves producing either pizzas or wings, and then those are the two goods that you have to consume. We have two individuals here, so that's the main part of our labor. They also have to have obviously some flour and chickens and pepperoni and other things to actually be able to make pizzas and wings. But when we come to production, we're going to simply talk about how much each person could be able to produce, how many pizzas they could produce in one day if they produce nothing but pizzas, and how many wings could they produce if they produce nothing but wings. And so that's, if you remember, that's how we also sort of introduce the production possibilities frontier, saying you take all of society's resources and put them in the production of watermelons, and you just ask the question, how many watermelons would you be able to produce? So that's the same structure we have here. Remember, a two-good world is good because we can show a trade-off. So there's alternatives, and that gives us a trade-off, and that allows us to see the ideas of comparative advantage and absolute advantage. And then we're going to have two people because we want to have some trade. So the smallest number of people you can have to have a trade would be two. So let's have two goods, two people, and set up a framework in which they can specialize in trade. So the first thing we want to talk about is what are our production possibilities in this economy? And that's what we have here in this first part of the first set of numbers here. We have Blake and Gwen, and we have production possibilities. And this is simply listing, if they spend an entire day making nothing but pizza, how many pizzas could they make? And then if they spent all their day doing nothing but making wings, how many wings could they make? And for Blake, we'll say, let's suppose he could make 16 of each. He could either make 16 pizzas or 16 wings. For Gwen, we could say if she was to make pizzas all day, it would be she could make 8 pizzas, and then if she made nothing but wings, she made 32 wings a day. So again, these are some different numbers that they had in the book, a little bit smaller numbers, and they're going to have different ratios here. But we could take the numbers for one of the two people and plot their own personal production possibilities frontier. So I've done that for Gwen here simply because there's not enough room on the board here to draw two production possibilities frontiers and have all the other numbers I want to have up here. So here's Gwen's production possibilities frontier. It's got a axis here on the pizza, the intercept on the pizza axis is 8. The intercept here on the wings axis is 32. And we're assuming that we don't have increasing opportunity costs, as I talked about for in the video about the production possibility frontier. We're going to assume we have constant opportunity costs. So you see that Gwen has a 4-to-1 ratio. In the time that it take her to produce one pizza, she could make 4 wings. And we're just going to assume that that's constant throughout. And that's what this, when we assume that that's constant, that trade-off is constant throughout, that's what gives us a linear production possibilities frontier. As I said on the video on the production possibilities frontier, in the real world, we sort of think that a curved production possibilities frontier, or what we call increasing opportunity cost, makes more sense. But that would, to be able to do that in a numerical example, would make the numbers here more complicated. And we don't want to make the numbers more complicated than we need to in order to show the point that specialization and trade can make both people better off. So we have Gwen's production possibilities frontier graphed here. We could also graph Blake's. He's got a production possibilities frontier. His intercepts would be 16 and 16, and we can have it. Now, If they're not going to specialize and trade, then they have to produce everything they're going to consume. And I'll just say here, let's suppose that in the absence of specialization and trade, each of both Blake and Gwen will spend half of their day making pizzas and half of their day making wings. So that means that Blake, if he can make 16 pizzas or 16 wings, if he splits his time equally, he could produce 8 and 8. And Gwen, if she splits her time, could have 4 pizzas and 16 wings. And that's taking advantage of that linearity, that constant trade-off. So we know that if Gwen splits her time, she's going to be here with 4 pizzas and 16 wings. And let's just say that choice is kind of arbitrary. But I'll just say that each person is going to spend half of their time producing each good, and then they're going to consume whatever they have left over. So Blake will have 8 pizzas and 8 wings. Gwen has 4 pizzas and 16 wings. So that's the state of their economies without any specialization in trade. Now, if they specialize in trade, it's going to turn out that we can show that both people would be better off than they are when they don't specialize in trade. And to do that, we have to look at the opportunity cost. Now, the definition of opportunity cost is the highest valued alternative foregone when you choose to do something. In a two-good economy, the opportunity cost of pizza is wings. Because if you spend the time that you spend and the resources that you spend making pizza, you could have used that time and resources to make wings instead. So when we think about what's the cost of, or what's an opportunity cost of producing pizza, well, it's got to be expressed in terms of wings. And Blake's got a 1-to-1 ratio here. So it's always going to be the case for him in the time that he could make a pizza, he could make one. So we'll write that down. And then his cost for wings would have to be 1 pizza as well. So he's got a 1-to-1 ratio. So his opportunity cost of making a pizza is 1 wing. His opportunity cost of making a wing is 1 pizza. Gwen's got a 4-to-1 ratio. In the time that it would take her to make 1 pizza, she could have made 4 wings. So when we think about it, when we come down here, Gwen's got her opportunity cost of producing 1 pizza would have to be 4 wings, and then her cost of making 1 wing would be 1/4 of a pizza. Now, the principle of comparative advantage, or the law of comparative advantage, says that if each person specializes in the good for which they have a lower opportunity cost and then trade, they can be better off. Well, we've got their opportunity cost set up here. And since for each person, the opportunity cost of producing wings, for instance, is pizza, we have the same unit. So we can actually just compare the numbers here. We see that it costs Gwen 1/4 of a pizza to make a wing. It costs Blake 1 entire pizza to make a wing. So Gwen has a lower opportunity cost for making wings, and Blake's got a lower opportunity cost for making pizza. So the law of comparative advantage says they should specialize in producing the thing that they have the lower lower opportunity cost for. So this suggests that Blake should be producing all the pizza and Gwen should be producing all the wings. So let's say they specialize in this fashion. Now, if we look at this here, we can already sort of see that our economies combined have to be better off. Blake and Gwen in total have the potential to be better off because Blake makes nothing but pizzas all day. He has 16 pizzas. We see that before they specialized, Blake made 8, Gwen made 4. We had 12 pizzas. We now have more pizzas than we had before. And before they were between them making a total of 24 wings, When Gwen makes wings all day long, she produces 32. So we've got more pizza and more wings. That means there's got to be some way they can divide it up. Now, in this case, it would turn out that a trade that would actually lead them to have more consumption of both goods would be 6 pizzas for 12 wings. They could trade in a 2-to-1 ratio, trade 6 pizzas for 12 wings. Blake made 16 pizzas. He trades 6 away. That leaves him with 10. Gwen gets 6 pizzas from Blake. She's got 6. So these sum up to 16, and that's the number of pizzas we have available. And then Gwen sends 12 wings to Blake. She had 32, sends away 10 or 12. She's got 20 left. Blake gets 12. And now we can look at it and see Blake has 10 pizzas and 12 wings with specialization. Gwen has 6 pizzas and 20 wings with specialization. And that's more of both goods than they had to begin with. One way of thinking about what happened here, if we came over and graphed Gwen's spot here, she'd have 6 pizzas and 20 wings. That would be like a point right here. And this point here for Gwen, we see, is beyond her production possibilities frontier. Well, as we talk about in class, and as it says in the book, economic growth, if you have more resources or improved technology, economic growth is about shifting out the production possibilities frontier. And when you shift the production possibilities frontier out, you can have more consumption. Consumption is really our standard of living. So specialization in trade allows Gwen to get more of both of these goods than she could have on her own, and Blake can get more of both goods as well. So the comparative advantage shows that there are gains from trade, simply from specializing in trade, and the direction that you want to specialize is specialize in the production of the good for which you have a comparative advantage. One thing to note about these numbers here is that compared to the example they have in the book, Blake is actually absolutely, this is not just comparative advantage, it's also absolute advantage. Blake can make more wings or more pizza in a day than Gwen can. So Blake is in some sense absolutely better at making pizzas than Gwen, but Gwen is absolutely more productive in terms of making wings, and one day she can make 32 wings. Blake can only make 16. So we have both absolute and comparative advantage, but it's comparative advantage that matters here. And when you specialize in the direction of your comparative advantage, you can be more productive. Another way of thinking about what's going on here is that the easiest way for Gwen to make pizza is for her to specialize in producing wings and then trade those wings for pizza. And if you think about other ways, like the easiest way for Steph Curry, in the examples they have from the book, the easiest way for Steph Curry to get like a Lamborghini would be is not for him to try to make one himself, but for him to play basketball, make a lot of money playing basketball. Then he can go spend that money to buy a Lamborghini. It's a lot easier for him it takes him a lot less time to make money from playing basketball to buy a Lamborghini that way than to try to assemble one himself. And so when you think about specialization and training, if you want to think about it that way, in this way, you can think it's easier or cheaper for you to specialize, produce something that you're good at producing, sell it, and then buy the thing that you're less relatively good at producing. And that's the magic of comparative advantage. And it's one of the ways through specialization, the division of labor, and trade that economic activity boosts everybody's standard of living.